What's up guys, welcome back. First of all, a quick update. Remember that article by Bloomberg that said that the new Switch hardware or model revisions are going to be talked about at Nintendo's investors meeting? Well, that was not true. Furukawa denied that they are going to be announcing new hardware at E3. Of course, you could take that for meaning a few different things. Obviously, Nintendo doesn't announce hardware at E3, they do Nintendo Directs. And on top of that, if anyone thought Nintendo was going to just be casually saying, yeah, we got new hardware that's coming, or yeah, we're going to announce hardware at E3, you don't know Nintendo, because they don't do that, and they in fact have straight out lied right before they do announce new hardware. They did that with the DS, the DS Lite, and the 3DS with the 3DS XL. So anyone thought they were going to be announcing new hardware, just like I mentioned in my last video at their investors meeting, they never have done that before, and it would have been a shocker if they did. So I'm not surprised that they didn't, and I'm not surprised that they denied it as well. Furukawa also denied that the Switch will be going on sale in China anytime soon. So take that for what you will, guys. When thinking about the Switch Pro mini versions, in my opinion, it's safer to stick with the Wall Street Journal and Nikkei for that information regarding those consoles. It looks like the Bloomberg information was all over the place and already partially proven incorrect by their own sources. So with that in mind, here's what we're going to talk about in this video. Remember the last video I did about the SOC for the Nintendo Switch Pro and what chips it could possibly be using as far as what Nvidia is coming out with? We went over that new laptop GPU, the GTX 1650, and we also briefly talked about that leaked information for a possible new Nvidia Shield Tablet coming out in 2019, even though at the time there was no information on that chip available. Now though, it looks like we may have some first information, rumored information, but it looks like to be real, of what Nvidia will be using for this new Nvidia Shield Tablet that they're currently testing right now behind the scenes. And this does look like the chip that Nintendo would want to use if they're looking for PlayStation 4 performance on the go. This is coming by way of TheVerge.com, and I'll leave the link in the description. But Nvidia is testing currently a mobile SoC codenamed Mystique, and the codename for this device was found by XDA developers on Nvidia's Shield Experience software. That it appears Nvidia is working on a 2-in-1 hybrid device that is able to work both as a laptop and as a tablet, and it has the ability of switching between 3 UI modes, including desktop, tablet, and a mysterious third mode called Dynamic. Now, of course, the functionality of this device Nvidia is testing doesn't necessarily have anything to do with Nintendo and what their goals are for their next generation variant of the Switch, which has been rumored by Nikkei. But the main thing we're focusing on is the processor of this device. And the processor discovered was the T194 chip, which is the same code number for the Tegra Xavier processor, which is Nvidia's best and newest. And the key feature about this chip is that it runs on a 12nm process, and it can operate at a lower than 10-watt power profile and a maximum of 30 watts. And we're also going to talk about later why Nintendo may not actually choose to use this chip and why they may choose to use this chip as well. But first of all, getting back to the performance, it is capable of 1.4 teraflops of FP32, which would put it close to 3 times as powerful as the Tegra X1 processor and over twice as powerful as the Parker chip. And of course, the Nintendo Switch is downclocked to be about 393 gigaflops while docked, and below 200 gigaflops on portable mode. Also, this chip is 4 full years newer than the Tegra X1 processor, so this is a huge upgrade if Nintendo would use something like this in a next generation Nintendo Switch. Obviously, certain next generation features that are already confirmed by Sony and PlayStation 5 would most likely not be possible. Things like real-time ray tracing, native 4K 60 frames per second would not be possible on a device like this. However, with the latest APIs from 2019, all the latest software suites that I could run for developers, and compatibility with all modern engines, this chip theoretically could allow for PlayStation 5 ports, and obviously very easily PlayStation 4 ports on a Nintendo Switch device that runs a chip like this. However, like we talked about before, Nintendo would very likely not be using a straight up stock Xavier SoC chip in an upgraded Nintendo Switch. I do think they would need to customize it to add certain features that are more beneficial to them as a home console and on the go aspect, and obviously they would want to put even more security features in there to prevent piracy, to make it a lot less hackable. Even though this is a new chip, most likely Nvidia already has their own security processes on a chip like this, but after Nintendo Nintendo has experienced so much piracy, so much hacking, and things going on with the current Switch, no doubt they would want to customize it even more so to make it less hackable and more security efficient going forward if they were to use a chip like this. And on top of that, the CPU that the Xavier uses is far more powerful and far more efficient than the CPU that the Tegra X1 uses. It's still an ARM processor, but it does have 8 custom cores of ARM v8.2. Now, while this is still a different architecture from x86 that PlayStation 5 and Xbox Next would be using, it still is a huge upgrade from what they're currently using with the old ARM Cortex A57s in the current Nintendo Switch Tegra X1 processor. And of course, the Xavier is capable of full HDR and it is fully 4K compatible, 4K 60 frames per second, if it's running applications that are able to process that on the chip, of course without taking too much of the processing power. So the Xavier chip, which uses the Volta GPU, 512 CUDA tensor cores, would easily be able to upscale to 4K on your televisions, obviously running games at 1080p or lower. So this would definitely be the current chip Nvidia could use to upgrade the Nintendo Switch for Nintendo, enabling it to run all PlayStation 4 games with no problem, and with some modifications, some customizations, most likely enable it to get PlayStation 5 ports as well, but that still remains to be seen. We don't know yet for sure how difficult it would or wouldn't be to get PlayStation 5 ports to run on a chip like this, and again it depends on what type of customizations Nintendo would use. But people have been asking what chip would allow Nintendo to get the upgrade they need to run these games, and this would definitely be the best Nvidia could offer at the current time in order to do that. So now we're going to talk about the reasoning why Nintendo wouldn't use this chip and why they would use this chip. So a couple of things to keep in mind is that just because Nvidia is using the Xavier chip for possibly this new Nvidia Shield Tablet does not mean that they're also using it for the new upgraded Nintendo Switch. And the reason for that is due to cost. This might be far too expensive for Nintendo to use on an upgraded Switch at this time. But again, we have no clue as to what Nvidia would charge Nintendo to use a chip like that. So that is just speculation, but that would be one reason why Nintendo may not be using this chip in an upgraded Switch at this time. If you remember back in 2016, Nvidia did plan to release an Nvidia Shield Tablet Part 2, which they eventually canceled, and then simply a few months later it was announced that the Tegra X1 and Nvidia were going to be powering the Nintendo Switch, and that Shield 2 tablet never was released because everyone assumed that that was basically what the Nvidia Shield Tablet Part 2 was that the Nintendo Switch was actually the Nvidia Shield Tablet 2, and then fully realized in the Nintendo Switch with Nvidia's help. So that could be another reason why this would not be for an upgraded Nintendo Switch, because Nvidia is releasing their own product using this chip, and quite possibly they may have planned to use it for an upgraded Switch but are now using it in their own product because they are not using it for Nintendo. That is one theoretical possibility that we have to consider. But it is kind of funny when you think about it, because it could go both ways, since Nvidia is using this chip for what looks like to be a tablet device. Since they are already likely producing it for that purpose, they could likewise be producing that also for Nintendo for their own upgraded Nintendo Switch as well. So it could go either way here. So again, this is just all speculation on things that are possible as far as what technology Nvidia is using that they could possibly be helping Nintendo with. I do not think it'll just be some stock Xavier chip. It'll definitely need to be customized for what Nintendo wants to accomplish for future upgraded Switch models that Nintendo plans to release and has already been rumored to be releasing starting in 2019. And as I mentioned in another video too, the technology is also out there for Nintendo to use different chips as well. So those are all things we have to consider in what could end up being something that might surprise people, as the Wall Street Journal has brought out, in an upgraded Switch model. And even Nikkei mentioned as well that a next generation Switch was in development. So all these things we got to keep an eye on very closely to see what Nintendo's going to do. Hopefully at E3 they actually reveal something that we can see and even play, because I'm going to be there at E3, so hopefully I get to play something that Nintendo reveals, or at least see something in action. So I'm really excited to see what Nintendo has planned. I'm sure you guys are as well. And of course, as always, stay subscribed to this channel if you want to see more updates on anything regarding Nintendo's upgraded Switch models coming in the not too distant future. Alright guys, if you did enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next video. Have a great day.